Just scoot over to your right a little bit. I want to make sure that I don't block you with my window. Okay, right there. Perfect. Hey, Helen.
Joe.
The first time I met you was just like this.
That's true.
On Skype.
Right here.
Had I already cast you in the movie, or was I?
You just wanted to make sure.
You already had the part. I just wanted to talk to you for a second. Okay, so tell me about reading the script for Emily for the first time. What did you think about the character?
I really liked the character. I think she's spunky. I think that she has a certain sense of fearlessness that develops these obstacles for herself, because she dives into these situations that I wouldn't if I was thinking logically. But her thought process is so different from mine. She ends up on a lot of adventures, I think.
Do you believe in ghosts or aliens? Do you relate to her in that way?
Well, I don't overtly believe in ghosts, but I remember as old as when I was in high school, I went to this boarding school that was on top of this Native American burial site, and one of my best friends saw this woman walking through our hallways on different occasions, on several different occasions, and I didn't totally not believe her, I remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about aliens? The movie actually ends up being about aliens.
That's true.
Do you believe in aliens?
I think it's really plausible that there's life outside of Earth. I don't know if they want to come and use my body to farm more aliens for themselves.
Right.
Well, that might be a fear that we have, but I guess I don't see why not, because I don't know enough about it. But yeah, there could be an ET somewhere in the world, I think.
Right. How was acting via Skype?
It was really fun, because there are all these sort of impediments that Skype introduces when you're interacting with someone. There's a delay, and sometimes their camera freezes, and also you're not ever looking at someone straight in the eyes.
Right.
So those were all things that informed our dynamic, I think, between me and Daniel.
Uh-huh.
That it was just fun to have more to work with, more obstacles to work with as an actor.
Yeah. And you basically ended up being the camera operator for the movie. Were you nervous about acting and operating camera?
I think that especially with this setup of iChat or Skype, we as a culture right now are we're all camera operators. I'm operating the camera right now, talking to you.
Uh-huh.
So it's sort of this amateur level of skill that we all have. So I don't think it was too distracting. It was pretty.
Did you relate to the long distance relationship aspect of the movie? Is Skype something that's part of your personal life?
I have been in a long distance relationship, and Skype does introduce a really interesting layer of closeness when you're far away from someone. And it's not something I've experienced with any other form of communication, that you feel it's sort of this mirage of the person, and you feel they're right there, but then the tragedy is that you can't touch them, they're not actually in with you.
Right.
So that, I think, is a really specific quality that only this kind of internet chatting has, and I was interested in exploring that.
What do you think of horror movies? Are you somebody who's been a horror movie fan your whole life, or is this project kind of your introduction to that?
This project is definitely my introduction to horror movies. I'm definitely more interested in them now. I'm not very well versed, but I'm more excited about the journey that they can take that the audience can go on in a horror film.
Yeah.
How exciting it is. I think it's interesting that I heard once that the chemical that's released during horror movies when you get scared is a similar chemical to happiness.
Uh-huh.
So just the adrenaline that it produces, and I think that's a really interesting way to make a movie and to watch a movie.
Are you a thrill seeker in general? Do you ride roller coasters or skydive or anything like that?
Not really a thrill seeker. Sometimes I end up doing sort of risky things for parts that I have or projects that I'm doing. So I feel sometimes that's sort of my way of taking risks, is making it happen in my work.
Yeah.
But I'm not really. I'm sort of a boring person, I think, in general, outside of that.
One of the things that's funny for me is the sort of disparity between the finished product of a horror movie and then the actual making of the horror movie, which isn't very scary at all.
Right.
It's more of a technical exercise. Can you talk a little bit about that, like watching the finished product at Sundance with an audience versus like actually shooting it?
Yeah, I remember there was one moment, the first moment where the alien shuts the door behind me, that I actually was scared on set.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was set up in a way that I didn't know when it was going to happen. But, yeah, there was a lot of really technical, really specific choreography and blocking because you took these long takes, and so we had to be really specific physically what we were doing. So I was mostly thinking about that technicality more than feeling scared of the kid actors that were in the space with us. So watching it with an audience who didn't experience that first process and just saw the final product and actually had reactions and were scared of it, I think enhanced my experience. I think I was scared with the audience.
Uh-huh.
Scared. I don't know if I would have been if I'd seen it alone on my laptop.
So a lot of people, this is the first time they've seen you is in this movie. And you're obviously a bright young star. You're very talented. You have a big future. Are there any horror movies in your future? Are you any stage work in your future? What area of acting are you most excited to pursue?
Right now, I'm writing a script with a friend of mine who I co-wrote a script with a few years ago. But we're just writing the script right now. We're not thinking about money or anything, so I have no idea how we're going to make it. But so right now, it's just sort of purely creative, and that it's kind of a really nice, relaxed, open feeling.
Great.
Something like that in that stage.
Well, it was great working with you on this movie. We've worked together since then. Hopefully we'll work together again soon.
I hope so.
Anything else you want to say?
No, it was great working with you too, Joe.
Oh.
On your first horror movie.
Oh. All right, cool. Talk to you later. Simon Barrett. Where are you right now?
I am in Seoul, Korea, where we are prepping our next project following VHS.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about VHS for a second. Joe Swanberg, happened to think that the character of Emily that you wrote for the segment, The Sixth Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger, is one of the most exciting characters that I've seen in a horror movie, because she seems sort of fearless and sort of naive in a really fun way that kind of allows her to barge into these situations. Where did you get an idea for that kind of character?
I think it was more just that I knew we were going to be collaborating on this one, and I wanted to write someone who felt real in a way that was kind of funny and entertaining to me. You always see people in the haunted houses be kind of and you're like, why don't they leave? And I wanted someone who was a little more okay, I've seen those movies. I know, the ghost just wants me to find its body or discover who its murderer is, and it's going to be, some scary scene in the rain. So let's just get on with it then.
Yeah.
And of course, it turns out to be a different situation than that.
By having a character who actually wants to communicate with the ghost, you still get the haunted house movie, and then there's none of this kind of questioning going on from the audience, I think.
I like the idea of writing horror movies where the characters are braver than myself, because I feel like it's scarier and it's also more compelling. Because Emily has such a good ethic about her haunting, you really feel for her. It's a haunting, and I need to make the best of the situation. I find that really sympathetic. Normally, when you're working with a young female protagonist in a horror movie, they're written, kind of as these weird ciphers. They're not really very real people, and they tend to scream a lot and run around a lot. And so this was just a new way of trying to avoid that. And and I knew we didn't have much time. It was a short, and we wanted it to be one of the shortest, because at that time, the VHS feature was coming together, and we were kind of starting to get an idea of what our running time was going to be. So it was more just how do we kind of get on with it?
What was it like, sort of writing a script that you thought was going to be thrown away and then ended up being a pretty literal version of the finished project?
It was funny because I hammered out I wrote Emily very quickly. It was written from 1 to 3 in the morning one night, when I was just kind of okay, we got to finish this VHS movie. I got to write, I'll write something for Joe. And I literally did spend almost no time on the dialogue. because I was like, Joe's just going to work with the actors and they're going to come up with something better. And then I sent it to you and you're like, no, I think as an experiment, you're like, I really like this. I think as an experiment, I'm going to do the lines verbatim. And I was like, okay, well then that's not a finished draft. Don't show that to anyone. And I went back and I tried to give the dialogue a real rhythm. That said, I do think Helen and Daniel brought a lot to the lines and to the characters that wasn't in the script. I mean, when they went off script, it was always an improvement. Even just kind of the rhythm of the lines. They brought a lot to that. They worked really well together.
I mean, I think you're a good dialogue writer, and I think we ended up with a nice mix because we had Helen, who's a trained actor, sort of really working from that, and then we had Daniel, who's not a trained actor. The finished version of the short is somewhere in the middle, I would say.
Yeah, and I kind of think that's like the best way to work. Oddly, I mean, when you're doing found footage, and we talked about this a bunch, like obviously it makes sense to have improv works really well for found footage because you get that realistic, spontaneous feel. But at the same time, a lot of people who do improv, the scenes can tend to go on too long or get lost in something or people are kind of trying to figure it out on the first, 10 takes. So, I mean, I do think it's good to have it to work. I like the way we work where we have a script that everyone agrees, could be done as written, but let's see if we can improve it.
What was nice about it is I think we both agree that at the end of the day, the performance is the thing that matters. And whichever route you end up taking, as long as you land on something that feels good and real, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, and we can talk about how I wrote Helen, the character of Emily, in this unique way, but it's really Helen's kind of oddly disaffected but totally believable performance. I mean, she sells those little kind of half ironic moments extremely well, which is not, you just have to get a group of people that are kind of in tune with that sort of humor. And when you're doing a horror movie, I always love seeing VHS with an audience because people find her and Daniel's banter I think a lot funnier than we'd even planned it to be. I mean, we're trying to be funny, but audiences really respond to the fact that we're working with these haunted house cliches with these two people that are just like, that's scary. which I feel like is what I would say in those moments.
Well, you end up with a great switcheroo, too, because for, I would say 90% of the movie, the audience is Daniel. We're identifying with him, sort of feeling like this girl's a little off of her rocker, and then it's a great, you sort of pull the rug out from under, and she ends up being the one that hopefully the audience identifies with in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everyone's been in a relationship where they're where they feel like the other person's making them insane. And I like the idea of doing something kind of literal with that. Initially, my whole concept of this was codependency horror, to use the metaphor of a functional but ultimately destructive relationship, for a ghost story. And I love the idea that he's literally making her crazy and manipulating her in this way. They have very strong feelings for each other, and there's a lot to it to explore. So that's spoiler territory, I guess. But yeah, I guess no one's watching this who hasn't seen the movie. hopefully more than once.
Right.
So,
all right. Cool, man. Well,
is that it?
Yeah. Thanks for the insight.